Hi. Now, I was listening to Carrie earlier, and she said, do you know what? I set up my social media agency in 2007, and then I really changed it around in 2012, and that was a little bit late down the line, and there was me thinking, oh, geez, I set up my social media consultancy in 2015, so I'm like way, way behind. Now, why, so record OneFifty, nice great big picture. Why did we, in 2015, think, yes, this is the time, we need something new in social? And it's because we fundamentally believe that there is a widespread misunderstanding of how people use social. Now, the big focus in that sentence is people. Because invariably, when I'm talking to clients, they come to me and go, right, Katie, I've got this brilliant product. I've got this great service. We've got a brilliant brand. We've got these messages. They've all been sorted. We've got something really exciting to talk about. And hopefully, they give me some sort of idea of the type of person they want to be speaking to. And then they're like, and we've got social channels. Might want to grow them a little bit. We've got all sorts of channels out there. And then that's when people invariably start thinking, oh, okay, great, right, what's the creative? How do we get that really exciting product, brand, service onto Twitter and get people doing something? And that's where the problem comes, because it's all going one way. And what people aren't thinking about is, hang on a second, and it actually echoes, Tom's done some work for me here because he's gone into the theory, which I wasn't going to go into, so thanks, Tom. It's people. How are people genuinely using social? We seem to kind of forget that people are on social for a reason, and it's usually quite personal to them. Like, how are they talking about brands? Do they talk about brands at all? I reckon social media. I very rarely share anything that brands ever do, because I'm not really that interested, and it doesn't say that much about me. And what people forget is that if you think about when you're going to retweet something, or you're going to put something on Facebook, or you're going to put it on Instagram, it needs to build into your own personal brand. Because quite frankly, if BA's got a sale on, it might be quite useful, and you think, great, I'm going to get cheap flights to Greece. You're probably not going to put it on your Facebook, though, are you? Because what does that actually say about you? So as a brand, or as an agency, it's about thinking, I want to get out this message, but it's not rational. You can't just put it on Twitter and expect people to come to you. It's all about that emotion. And actually, you need to think about, if I'm going to put something out on the channels and how I'm going to talk about it, what is it that will then trigger them to share? And that's what we look at. It's actually, what are the actual behaviours and how can we use data? So Tom was talking about the whole wealth of data there is out there. And people are talking in specific ways, but we always forget that people do this. It's like, are they actually talking about your brand in the first place? Are the audiences you think you want to reach, are they actually the right people to begin with? What is the language that they're using? What channels are they on? And it's then that if you start with, okay, so let's look at the data. What are the behaviours that people are doing? And you're taking that first before you think, right, I've really got to get my message out. Do you know what? I'm going to do a brilliant video. I'm going to land 10K on it. I'm going to put some paid media spend behind it, and then they'll all come towards me. But actually, what's going to make me stop and think? Because there's so much information around us all of the time. Oh, okay, that's really interesting. I'm going to retweet that, and I'm going to put that out on my own social channels and say something about me. Now, this is a bit of an example of how we can all think that something's quite important, but in actual fact, people think quite differently. So this is Google search trends over the last year of people searching for Theresa May. And you can see there's some significant points when she became Prime Minister, when the election came on. Now, Google Trends or search trends is a really good indication of what people actually like, what they care about, and what they're interested in. Now, clearly she is a very important woman, and if you're in PR, then she'll very much be on your agenda. She's big on the news agenda. Now, there's something that's way, way bigger than Theresa May, and is consistently so, and that is cats. People much prefer to Google cats by quite a significant amount than Theresa May. So when you're tapping into what does actually get people interested? Yeah, cats and cucumbers. I am going to put that all over my Facebook. I think it's funny. And what does that say about me? Well, my friends look at me and go, do you know what? Katie's quite funny. She shares really interesting videos. I enjoy watching that. And I get that positive association back. When it comes to Theresa May, I'm a bit like, yeah, I think she's all right. Do I actually want to put that on my Facebook? Am I going to get judged? Do you know what? I'm not going to put that on my Facebook or on my Twitter. Now, that yellow line just shows how many people had no idea who the DUP were. And there is actually something on Google that is searched for more than cats, and that is porn. Massive. And the DUP was one of the only things that actually overtook that. So we really did have no idea who the DUP were whatsoever. And for just one day, we got very distracted from porn and started Googling that instead. So I don't know what that says about the British public. But I think, that is why it is really important that if you want to get somebody to engage with you, you actually do need to engage with that person and what they care about. And it's not always, unfortunately, what we think they care about. We can make certain assumptions, and yes, do you know what? If you said to me, which do you think is more important, Theresa May or cats? Well, I'm probably going to say Theresa May, because if I say I like cats more or I'm more interested, you sort of think, oof, I'm not sure about you. But actually, if we do truly understand how people behave, and there are certain signals that we can use to establish that, we can have far more effective social campaigns and tactics and mechanics in order to reach them. And it's interesting what Tom was saying about confirmation bias. All these things play a role in social, as do actually what kind of person do I want you to see me be. So on Friday night, I go out with my friends, I have a nice glass of champagne, I go out and have a lovely meal in a very expensive restaurant. This definitely didn't happen, unfortunately, but I'm going to put that all over social because that makes me look really good. I definitely do not put the rustlers on social because, quite frankly, that's not adding to my personal brand. I want you to think I'm very sophisticated and intelligent and I go to all the best places. I do not go for microwavable rustlers, even though that is actually what happens on my Friday night. So this is, how does that actually translate into what OneFifty offers? So this is sort of the three broad areas. So it's that evolve. So actually, what does your social media strategy look like? If we are going to take, first off, what are the behaviours that your audience has? And how do we find those behaviours? We look for the data behind it. If we can't prove that they have those behaviours, we don't assert it. Quantifying, actually, how do you measure that this actually makes a difference at all? We have people coming to us with really big questions. And it is around the question there and not the solution, which is actually, I've got a massive comms team. We're big in the UK. However, I've got a board and they want to know, do I impact brand consideration across all of owned, earned, paid? Can you prove that? And that's where we're sort of taking the measurement. You can. And then the third one is around identify. It's one of my sort of pet peeves where people say, yes, we are going to do something with influencers. I've got this massive YouTuber who's got 2 million followers. It's going to make the world of difference to you. And you pay an awful lot of money, and there's some awful big numbers, and probably make no difference whatsoever. Because actually, invariably, yes, they probably hit actually 16-year-old girls. And actually, you want 35-year-old men. Not quite so effective. There can be much smaller people that do drive genuine influence. I'm glad you're nodding, Harry. This is a relief. So who actually drives genuine influence, and how can you use data to inform that? Now, quite a few people ask, well, what's your revenue model? Actually, how do you approach that? And there were some interesting questions that came up earlier. I am going to say something maybe slightly controversial, which is that retainers are a surefire way to annoy both agency and clients. And invariably, it may take different amounts of time, but people get disappointed. Because as an agency, you're like, do you know what? We give you an awful lot for this. You pay us 10 grand a month and we overservice every single month. Whereas a client is sat there thinking, do you know what? I'll give you an awful lot of money. I'll give you 10 grand a month. I'm not really sure what I get for it. So actually, when we started OneFifty 18 months ago, we decided that actually a key part of our revenue was to have projects. Now, I know when you're saying, well, when you're business planning, you can't be assured that that's still going to keep rolling, and it is very nice to know that you've got that 10 grand coming in every month. But it does mean that we deliver a distinct piece of work in a set amount of time. It also keeps us, and it helps keep my team on their toes in terms of really having excellent delivery. And you don't get into that, actually, I'm sort of churning through it. I know they're going to want this every month, but I haven't really thought about it. And it also allows us to do certain products as well, which is more unfamiliar around sort of marketing, PR, social. And actually it is, right, for this amount of money, I'm going to deliver you this list of influencers. Or it might be, we are just going to do your measurement every single month and I'm not going to do anything else. Or it might be the case that we're doing something else, but there is a sort of a set amount of money allocated to it. And actually there was an interesting question around how you actually, what your model is and how your budgets look. And actually I came from a previous agency and we had very complicated budgets, and there were about 15 different levels that you could all get charged out at. And every time clients said, gosh, which level are you? If you get promoted, I'm delighted for you, Katie, but you're now going to cost me a lot more money. So we've only got 3 levels. So you're either a researcher or admin, there's project management, and there's consultancy. And how we do it is that you pay for the work done, you do not pay for the person. So if I'm doing admin, you get me at the cheapest rate. If I'm doing consultancy, you get me at the more expensive rate. But it's up to us to resource that. It's not your problem if I don't put the right person on the right task. I thought it might be a bit interesting to look at, so if you were going to set up a social media consultancy 18 months ago, what processes would you put in place for the future of social? Now, we do not, delightfully, have any internal emails whatsoever. We run absolutely everything off of Slack. This is not my Slack because there was too much on it and I thought it would reveal too much. But so the whole team, so there's 11 people in the team, and everyone communicates via Slack. Documents go via Slack. So I know if something's going to come into my email, it's important because it's from a client or somewhere else. And it makes a huge amount of difference that I don't go away for an hour and suddenly have 250 emails just piling in. And it just means that we can actually segment things in a much more effective way. You also get GIFs, which are amazing and gets the team very excited. It's true. The other thing is we run everything off Google and we run everything off Google Docs, and we share everything with our clients so they can go in and check anything at any time. We have no issues around version control. It's an absolute delight. And the other thing we use is Todoist, which essentially is a task management, so I can actually organise my day, but actually I can assign tasks to other people, I can see what people have got on, I can reorganise their tasks for the day, so I don't get a situation where I have someone going, I'm just so busy. I've got no time to do that for you today, Katie, because then I can actually see what they're doing. It just makes it much more streamlined, and we are small, and I'm out and about a lot. It means I can actually run the agency very effectively, whether I'm inside of the office or not. We also hire from more diverse backgrounds. So our first hire, for example, wasn't a community manager. In fact, she'd never done social in her life before. And she was a data analyst. We knew that data had to be at the very heart of what we do, and it had to be robust. We can't just go in throwing around numbers that don't really know where they came from. So we've actually got a data team. We also hire people, hence this picture, from a professional sports background. So one of our consultants was a former Olympic rower. He is very focused, very focused. But actually he brings, with that focus, a lot of determination and actually a lot of focus on, right, what do I need to deliver? What does that need to look like? And he's very self-analytical as a result on how could we have made that better? What are those small marginal gains that we need to do to make a big difference? And then the third one is actually we've hired a couple of content creators. So we've got a blogger and a YouTuber in our team. So when actually we're advising clients on genuinely what does make a difference when it comes to influencers and influence, we have a fully rounded sort of opinion and consultancy around that, which does make a big difference. And then finally, because we are all about datas and behaviours, is just on the benefits that we offer. Now, I think probably benefits fall into 2 categories. One is it good for PR? Unlimited holiday. Secondly, well, kind of everyone offers these benefits. They're kind of standard, so probably something we should offer too. But we wanted to approach it a little bit differently around what does the data tell us? that our staff wants around benefits? And what behaviours are we trying to influence? And then actually, as a business, what do we want to get out of that? And one is the well-being of staff, talent retention. We're small, we're new, no one knows us. I want to get the best talent. This is one of the ways to do that. And also sort of reflect what OneFifty is all about. So when we looked into it, actually, we've got quite a young employees. Avocados, they are all obsessed by avocados. I'm not being funny. We revised the benefits, and we announced 3 months ago what this was. And I sort of put avocados in the middle because we thought, well, they do like them. And it was by far the most popular benefit I've ever introduced. They were all utterly delighted. And, you know, there is a reason. It is quite difficult to transport avocados in your bag. They get a bit squashed. You also, you know, when do they ripen? When are they too ripe? When are they underripe? If you buy them in bulk, actually, it's a very easy way of managing the ripeness of avocados. And even now, it's one of the biggest bugbears. If we run out of avocados, they come running straight over. It's like, oh, you really do need to go to Tesco's, you know, Katie. We don't have any avocados left. So I've made a rod for my own back slightly on that one. The other one is health and well-being is really important because, you know, we all work in agencies and consultancies. People do work hard. So we will give everyone a free bike, should they want it, up to the value of £300 because it's good for their health, they get outside, and also quite often it's the quickest way to get around London. And then the third example, we do have other benefits around this, but the one to point out was everyone gets Spotify Premium. You know, music, there's lots of benefits to music. It also means that we've got one Spotify Premium and no one can argue who's playing what, or only somebody can play it because they've got premium and somebody else doesn't, so it levels the playing field. One of the benefits we don't have is flexible working, and that's because it's not a benefit. It's just a way of working, so we don't have that. People are free to come and go. They've got core hours, but it's their responsibility to manage when they do come in and how they structure their work. So that is it. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into what a social media consultancy might look like if you set it up just 18 months ago.